Authenticity is the daily practice of letting go of who we think we are supposed to be and embracing who we are. Brené Brown.
Being vulnerable is the ultimate act of courage. Brené Brown.
There's such a lot of different Anns in me. I sometimes think that's why I'm such a troublesome person. If I was just the one Ann, it would be ever so much more comfortable. But then it wouldn't be half so interesting. Lucy Maud Montgomery, Anne of Green Gables.
Underneath my outside face, there's a face that none can see. A little less smiley, a little less sure, but a whole lot more like me. Shel Silverstein.
Good morning. My name is Mira Hugabon, and I am a sixth form day student from Simsbury, Connecticut. I am your typical Westminster student, a feminist faculty kid, an introvert, an anime-loving, VTuber-watching video game enthusiast. Totally typical Westminster, right? Before I started Westminster, where my busy schedule gave me other ways to spend my time, I watched a lot of anime. In it, I saw lots of high school kids, mostly girls, interacting, making friends with each other, and having a great time. It seemed to me that if I acted like these girls, I would have a similar experience. However, I thought I still needed some human advice. So I asked my mother, we sat down, and she told me not to worry too much about academics, but to put my energy forward in participating in every activity and club meeting that I could early on so that I could meet people and connect with friends who had common interests. In theory, by doing these things, I would put myself out there and make friends at these events and have a great first year that I was hoping for. Since I was not naturally outgoing, my mom's advice seemed to reinforce the idea that a new me was necessary. So I started to change myself into the person that I thought other people would want to meet. An exciting bundle of energy, just like those popular girls I'd watched. Before school even began, starting with the day student picnic, I was everywhere. And I found a super nice group of people to hang out with during those opening days, too. Meaning, my plan was working. New Mira was working. Except, unfortunately, being new Mira was draining. Despite my encouraging start, as school went on, my energy was nowhere near what was needed to power new Mira through the day. My social battery was entirely expended by the second or third week of school, and I had completely crashed before October. So I backed away, ceasing most social interactions besides common pleasantries, in order to conserve my energy and maintain the character I was playing. It's hard to avoid interacting with people here at Westminster, especially in classes, during sports practices, but after meeting these basic commitments, I would go home and never leave unless I had to. This newfound overwhelm, however, did not stop me from wanting to push myself in my quest to realize my vision and find my place at Westminster surrounded by friends. Thinking back to my mother's advice, I returned after Thanksgiving break and again tried to participate in everything that I could to find my people. I had thought, theater people are nice, and I like hockey. So that winter, I decided to tackle both theater and hockey at the same time. However, this proved challenging because there were many conflicting practice times, seemingly requiring teleportation between the rink and the theater. Another thing which I unfortunately turned out to be incapable of. I can't teleport. To top that off, the Winter's musical had a lot of dancing in it. Another thing, which I discovered I am absolutely terrible at. I was mercifully taken out of one dance part, then another, and then another, until I was down to just one, and it was a stretch at best. In fact, some numbers, they just had me stand off the stage and sing, which was fine by me. Looking back, I'm really glad I'm really glad I did the musical. But at the time, trying to balance schoolwork, the show, hockey, and keeping up the character I was playing in real life was way too much for me that winter, and I was completely overwhelmed. I was surrounded by friendly people. However, I couldn't form connections with them because I was so in my own head and so exhausted. I was trying to be someone I was not and trying to act happy and okay when I was not. I was perpetually on the brink of tears while smiling as if it were the best day of my life. And this was how I spent the glorious days of my first year on the Hill. Definitely not my idea of how my year would go. But during my fourth form year, I decided not to give up on my quest to find my people. However, I would change up my methods. Throwing myself into events and trying to act like the person I thought people would want me to be was not working and just made things worse. My new idea was to slow down, take my time, and be authentic instead of trying to be something I wasn't. No more anime girl and no more new Mira. It was the second best decision I ever made. Being myself sounds simple enough, but it wasn't. I was so convinced I needed to be someone different in order to be enough for others that I constantly second-guessed myself and the intentions of others. Whenever I made a slight mistake in conversation or had an awkward moment like I'm having in this chapel many times, intrusive thoughts would make me miserable for the rest of that day or week. It took me a while to build up enough courage to make real connections. And once I had, then came the real hardest part. I had to put faith and trust, and I had to have faith that I could trust and depend on those friends, even though that voice in my head was still trying to convince me that I shouldn't. That is something I am still working on. Not giving up on myself and not giving up on my friends, that is the best decision I have ever made. Finding people I like and genuinely care about has changed my life at Westminster, and it will likely change yours once you find the right people to surround yourself with. To those people still looking, here's what I suggest. To consider the advice that you receive with an open heart, but to be true to yourself. Don't be an anime character. That's not a good idea. That's another piece of advice. Remember that those intrusive, negative thoughts are literally called thinking errors. Don't let them convince you that they're anything else. And don't give up on yourself or other people for that matter. Sometimes it takes time, but if you want somewhere to be until you make those connections, my table's always open on buffet days. Thank you. Instead of our typical recessional, I'd like to invite the chamber choir up to sing our school song, composed by current faculty member and former faculty kid, Mr. Andrew Marco.
September's offertory will go towards Penny's Flight, a nonprofit foundation whose mission is to raise money for research on neurofibromatosis, or NF. They aim to expand knowledge around NF while inspiring others to find beauty in imperfection, positivity in the face of challenge, and faith over fear. Penny's Flight was launched in the celebration of the life of Penny Durkee, who fought NF with courage and joy for 16 years. Penny's bravery and sense of humor touched so many in our very own community, myself included. Please consider donating either today as you recess from the chapel or through Venmo to Westminster School CT, noting chapel in the message box. This is a new Venmo account for your donations, so please do not donate to the old Westminster Martlets account. If we all donate just a little bit, we can raise well over $1,000 towards NF research and continuing Penny's legacy. Thank you.
I did take one. Yeah. And it was by Shel Silverstein.